Hi, Darren Mangum here, securities lawyer with the law firm of Mangum and Associates. Hey, thanks for jumping on my YouTube channel. Wanted to hop on today, talk about this big Ponzi scheme in Texas. Actually, it was based out of Kentucky. Brian McLean's House of Cards beef operations. Basically, it's kind of an example, and I don't know Brian McLean. I don't, have anything against him. But apparently he, for years had made money buying cattle at auction and then selling them for profit, and we're doing really well. And later decided, hey, I think I can maybe expand this, which is great. I mean, I think it's always great to say, hey, if I'm successful at doing it on a small scale, maybe I can bring in some investor capital and do it at a large scale. Nothing wrong with that. But basically, he basically put together an investor pool of capital to go and buy more cattle. The only problem he ran into is that he, didn't buy the cattle, and I guess when the bank went to check on the collateral, he brought in, he had both investor, he had some loans from a bank, but he also brought in about 170 million in investor funds. I really don't know if he used a PPM or not, but basically, yeah, he made around 2 billion in cattle transactions, and most of the cattle that were supposedly being bought and sold were fake. At least that's according to the news story. And I guess there's a few indictments. Really, what'll put you in jail faster than anything is basically a wire fraud claim that usually stems from a securities fraud claim. And apparently that's going on in this case. He had probably very good intentions, but and this is an example of how sometimes you don't start out with a nefarious plan, and I've seen this with clients. They don't start out with a plan to just steal everybody's money. No, it's usually based upon some legitimate idea, some game plan. But then apparently, when he's taking in all this money, started to use it for personal things. Apparently he bought some property with it. Again, these are all allegations, although a few of the people he was associated with have been convicted for wire fraud and things like that. But anyway, it was started paying out investors. Had promised them certain returns and decided, well, at some point, instead of actually paying out returns from the cattle he sold, he just decided, well, I'm just going to start paying them out, even though I haven't bought the cattle or sold the cattle. They just started paying them out anyway, and that's your classic Ponzi scheme. As money's coming in, I'm paying out these returns, and eventually gravity will take its toll and bring the house down at some point. Maybe he thought he could catch up and get out from it, but anyway, it just kind of looks like a big mess. And so I think again, a good example of what not to do, right? If you've got to be able to say, you got to do what you're saying you're going to do with the money. And look, hey, if you promise certain returns, and obviously that's another red flag, right? Don't promise the returns. Look, if the company is not doing well, don't just start making up stuff. Don't just start, hey, the worry, I don't want to get in trouble with my investors because we're not, the business is not, maybe he couldn't buy that much cattle. I don't know, he, or couldn't generate the returns he had promised. And so he felt like this pressure to start just, hey, I'm just going to fake it and start paying out returns anyway, and then it's just a slippery slope, is all I'm saying. So yeah, on it, just you gotta stick with your guns, stick with the game plan, and look, if the business is failing, the PPM is your get out of jail card, and you can't, even with the PPM, don't start paying out returns that aren't real. Don't tell your investors anything that's not true, and yeah, that's going to be difficult conversations if the business is not doing so well. Hey, we weren't able to buy as much cattle as we thought, and okay, your returns, or maybe we're losing money, right? You just got to come out and tell them, right? And yeah, you're going to get people upset. People are, but you're not going to go to jail, right? You're just saying, hey, we did our best, right? And this business may not, we weren't able to scale this business, maybe, Again, yeah, just be careful, right? And obviously, if you need a securities lawyer, you know who to go to, Mangum and Associates. 26 years now, and I think we've been doing this YouTube channel for, well, at least I knew over 10 years. So appreciate you watching, sharing, subscribing, all of the above, and we'll see you on the next video. Thank you.